Do you own a dog? Do you want to own a dog? Or are you just a dog lover? Or how about you just want to find out why dogs do what dogs do? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, you're going to love today's episode of the Pro Talk podcast. Before I introduce you to our guest today, make sure you push the subscription button as well as that notification bell so you never miss another episode with another amazing professional. Well, today's guest, she's an award-winning author, trainer, speaker. For over 10 years, she's been an AKC confirmation judge, and she spent over 30 years competing at all sorts of dog sports. If her voice sounds familiar to you, it's because she's also spent over 30 years as a broadcaster and major market radio, and recently gone into the podcast side of things. So it's with great pleasure I want to introduce a great friend of our family. She's been very instrumental with our Huskies, Miss Sandy Weaver. Sandy, how are you today?
Great, Rob. Thank you so much for the introduction and for the invitation to be part of your podcast. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, you've got so much to offer, and I know so many people love dogs, and you've got so much expertise. Now, you're a judge. I want to ask you, a part of on your website, it's what I think a lot of people think about when they watch the dog shows. They're like, what the heck is that judge looking for? I noticed on your website, you've got a seminar coming up that says, what I can see in 30 seconds. So, what does a dog judge look for, and what do they do?
It's really, really interesting because I showed dogs for a long time. I was an owner handler for a long time before I even considered becoming a judge. And that is a typical pathway. And I thought I knew exactly how you were supposed to show a dog to a judge. And then I started judging and I started seeing little versions of me all over the ring, people with decent and really nice dogs doing a terrible job using their time in the ring because the judge is looking differently than most people think. First of all, the judge is not judging this dog against this dog. The judge is judging this dog against the standard for the breed and this dog against the standard for the breed and saying which one has more virtues and which one has fewer faults. That's where it ends up, where it looks like the dogs are competing against each other, but they really aren't. They're competing against the version in my head of the perfect ideal specimen of the breed. So for a Siberian, if you had a dog that was, let's see, 7 inches tall at the withers, we know it can't show because that's a disqualification. That's way too big. If it was a male, that's 3.5 inches too big at the shoulder. So, you'd look at that and go, well, that dog's not being considered at all. Actually, in the real world, he'd be thrown out of the ring. I'd measure him, say, sorry, you're ineligible to compete, and send him on his way. But there's all kinds of little details, and every breed has what judges call hallmarks, and they're the really, really important characteristics that makes that breed unique and special and different from every other breed. And so you're looking at the hallmarks, and every dog has faults. There's no such thing as a perfect dog. No dog has ever walked into the ring that couldn't be improved somehow, and probably no dog ever will unless AI gets a hold of it, and because AI's figured out how many toes dogs have now. So when it first started, did you ever see the AI pictures of dogs? There'd be like 8 toes on each foot, but
Yeah,
AI's
that's
figured it out
hilarious.
now. Yeah, so there's no
Right.
such thing as a perfect dog. You're just measuring each dog against the written standard, which is what a perfect version of that breed would be if a perfect version could exist. And you're going, okay, which one's better and which one's better here in all of my hallmarks and has faults that I can live with because every dog has faults.
So a lot of people right now are thinking, well, I've got the perfect dog.
Well, yeah. First time I read the Siberian Standard for my first dog, I thought he was the perfect dog too, because I
Right?
didn't know
Yeah.
how to read the standard. It looks like
Yeah.
a bunch of words that make a whole lot of sense. And
Yeah.
yet it's a bunch of words written by very knowledgeable dog people who assumed that the people reading the standard would have an equal amount of knowledge. And most of us don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's so much more than just we turn on the Westminster show around Thanksgiving. You go, that's a pretty dog. That dog should win. But it's the way the handler and the dog interact.
Yes, because the handler, if it's a really good handler, and on those televised portions of the shows, you don't have many slouches in those rings. You've got really good handlers at the group and best in show level. And so, yes, it is part of it is the way they interact while they're working on the television part of the show. But most of the work is done long before that day. Most of the work is in conditioning and training and nutrition and coat care. If you've got that part nailed and dialed in, then you've got a dog that can win on a small stage or a big stage. But if you don't have that piece dialed in, if the dog's not in good condition, if the coat doesn't look good, if the weight versus, if the fat tissue versus muscle tissue isn't in the right proportion, if the dog isn't properly socialized, if the training hasn't gone well, so you said, "Oh, we don't have to train. I know what I'm doing," you're going to
Yeah.
crash and burn. Yeah. It's the same with tennis. I'm sure I mean, I teach handlers to work with their dogs, and you teach people to work with the net and with the racket and with the ball and with their bodies. It's the same thing. You've got to be conditioned. You've got to do the training. The nutrition's got to be right. And if some of that's not right, you're not going to win on a big stage.
Yeah. That's good to hear because so many people, I guess the amateur, the person at home sitting there going, dog won because it's a supermodel. It's a good looking, beautiful dog, but it's so much work that goes into it. That's good to hear that they're actually earning it.
It's a ton of work. It's, first of all, in many cases, decades of really good, really intense pedigree study and pairing study. So you're looking at not just, I'm going to breed this top winning dog to this top winning female. Can I say the B word? I won't. This
Yeah,
top.
you laugh. Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard. In dog parlance, a female dog is not a dog, she's a bitch. And I just think it's terrible that we call people bitch and we mean it as a bad word because I like bitches. They're
Yeah.
very lovely. But yeah, you don't just willy-nilly breed this one to this one and see what you get. It's decades of pedigree research, of knowing not just the individuals that you're breeding, but all of their litter mates too, because that's where the genetics are going to give you either greatness or averageness or mediocreness or a really not great litter. And everybody
Yeah.
hopes for at least one or two really good ones in the litters that we breed.
Right. We went to where we first met you face to face. My wife and I think it was in Jonesboro
Mhm.
when you
Yep.
were president of the Georgia Husky Club, and we were looking to find a breeder so we could get a puppy. And when we walked in, they said something about 1 to 2 year old bitches, pen 31. And I started laughing. And I was like a seventh grader because I kept giggling every time they'd say bitches here, bitches there. And my wife's like, well, that's what they're called. It
Yep.
takes a while to get used to that.
Yep, and it's really funny because you can see the people when you're looking, scrolling Facebook or any of the other, social media, you can tell a real dog person is using the word, but they have to, like, put an exclamation point where the I goes or put something else in there so the algorithm doesn't kick their post out and say, "No, you can't swear on this platform." We're not swearing, we're just talking about beautiful animals.
Right. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you the thing that seems to be a trend these days. Several celebrities, I'm not going to call them out because I don't know if they're telling the truth or what, but it's, we've lost a dog. Our first dog, she had cancer. And then I started researching all these things, what is good for dogs, nutrition wise, and this causes cancer or whatever. But it's not about the disease, but, like us as humans, we want to eat well. So nutrition, you see this all the time about, this is better than kibbles. What is your take on what's best for dogs to eat?
What's best for dogs to eat varies from dog to dog. And so some dogs will do really, really well on kibble. Siberians tend to do very well, but it has to be high quality with high quality protein and a high level of fat. They don't eat a lot of food, but they do require really good food. They do great on that. And some dogs have got to have, a prescription diet that literally smells better as poop than it does as dog food. I've had to feed that.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like, let me have the after version because the bagged version smells really bad. And then, there are people who will swear by feeding raw. There are people who swear by feeding the refrigerated processed dog foods. There are people who swear by feeding the frozen, lightly processed dog foods. And it's whatever works for your dog. And most veterinarians are not nutritionists. They don't get a whole lot of nutritional training. So if you're worried that your dog is not being able to keep a good coat or stay in good weight, and you're really wondering about whether you're feeding the right food, then work with a veterinary nutritionist. Find one of those and work with them and see what they suggest, because their whole job and most of their training has been about feeding a canine. The way that you can tell whether your dog is getting adequate nutrition from their food is, first of all, their skin and their coat, because they're mammals like we are, and our cells turn over all the time. Cells are always dying and being remade. That's the way our bodies work. And the cells that are the most important are the ones that get remade first. And so the brain cells get remade first. The internal organ cells get remade. The blood cells get remade. The cells that work the nose get remade. All of those get remade a long time before the skin and the hair cells get remade. So if your dog is having chronic skin problems, it could be nutritional. If your dog can't keep a good coat, it could be nutritional. So that's where you would want to start investigating, but don't investigate by just switching out dog foods. Investigate with a nutritionist to find out, A, why what you're feeding isn't working, so that B, you can feed the right thing. Now, a lot of the foods are highly advertised, and if you start thinking in the human realm, what gets highly advertised? Is it really that good for us? Sugar-filled sodas, sugar-filled breakfast cereals, fast food? I'm not saying they're bad, but as a steady diet, they're not optimal for human beings. And a lot of the heavily advertised dog foods are not optimal for dogs either. So see what works well for your dog. If what you're currently feeding is working fine, don't worry about it. Go with what works.
Now, would you say, is there something that's a definite no-no for dogs? Like what foods would be toxic? I mean, you hear this stuff like chocolate and certain berries or whatever. Is there a
Right.
certain type of food that should never be consumed?
You mean a type of dog food?
No, a type of food that, like, hey, if your dog eats this, you better watch out.
Well, yeah, chocolate, onions. Yeah, but there's a whole list you can Google. Doctor Google will tell you all the things that dogs shouldn't eat. Grapes, interestingly enough, almonds, interestingly enough. It's a lot of things that we can process, they can't. So before you start giving your dog human food, check with Doctor Google and make sure that it's not on a list of things that are bad for dogs to eat. Or check with your
Yeah,
veterinarian, because your veterinarian probably has that
sure.
list too.
I heard somewhere along the line that if your dog tends to eat the kibbles fast, that can cause bloating, that you should put water on the dry kibbles. Is that advised?
Sometimes. Actually, I had a standard poodle for a while, and that is a breed that is very prone to bloat, and my vet said just put 1 spoonful of canned dog food on top of his kibble. I had been soaking his food, and he didn't like it that way. He wanted his food to be crunchy. So, some dogs want crunchy food. They don't want soaked food, and some dogs, like this particular one, are very picky, and he was very picky, but I put a spoonful of dry canned food on top of his kibble, and he A, ate it, and B, didn't have a problem. So, there are a lot of things that can cause bloat, and it doesn't matter what you do with their food. Bloat is a multifaceted kind of a problem, and for those who don't know what bloat is, it's when the dog either eats too fast or the food off gases in the stomach, and it makes the stomach blow up. You can see it on the dog, it looks like they've swallowed a basketball, and so it blows up, and in a very bad circumstance, it torses, which shuts off both ends of the digestive system, isolating the stomach, which means nothing else can go in and nothing can come out. The dog will die very quickly if that happens,
Ooh,
within hours.
wow.
Within Yeah, within maybe an hour, if it's a very bad torsion, so much damage can be done to the dog's internal organs that the dog may not recover, even with really aggressive veterinary treatment. Yeah, if you ever look at your dog and it looks like they swallowed a basketball, that is an emergency. It is a right now, go to the vet.
Wow.
Do not pass go, do not collect $200, get
Yeah.
to the vet, because it's a life-threatening emergency.
Wow, that's interesting. I did not know that. I hope I never deal with it.
I hope you never do
Uh,
too. I wish nobody ever deal with it. But yeah, there's a lot of
yeah.
theories around bloat. For a while, they said elevated dishes, and that may still be the case, but there's research that shows that elevated dishes actually s have been implement in I've lost the word, actually might be causing some level of bloat. So
You mean the angle of which that they eat from their bowl?
right, so they're not if they put their head way down, maybe they don't get as
Yeah.
much air. My Siberian Casey eats really fast, so I bought puzzle bowls. They're just bowls that have lots of little places in them that the food can drop down into, which means she has to kinda pick. It slows her down, and so she didn't need it to be wetted down. She doesn't need the canned dog food. Siberians don't have a big problem with bloat to start with. You can do everything right, and if a dog gets stressed out, they can bloat. I mean, bloat is an interesting I hate to use the word interesting because that makes it sound positive, but bloat is an interesting series of causes, and you can do the best you can do, and you can still lose a dog to it.
Wow. How do you feel about vaccines for dogs? Good, bad, otherwise?
I feel like you should be very comfortable with the veterinarian that you use, and then go with whatever protocol they suggest. If you ask the question about most veterinarians will do titers. If you'd prefer to do titers, you can do titers. I go with what my veterinarian says, and she is pretty middle of the road. She's not, "You must vaccinate every single year for every single disease." She's not that. She's willing to do 3-year vax on everything that a 3-year vax works for, and to do titers if I would ask for titers. My dogs go a lot of places, and even when I have a dog, right now I only have 1 dog, but, I've in the past had 4, 6, 10 dogs. I've had a lot of dogs. And some of them didn't always go every time, but even they are kept to the same vaccination schedule that the dog that's going is kept to because the dog that's going is bringing stuff home. So if your dog is going to a dog park or playing with other dogs that aren't yours or goes to dog sports things, then you need to be up to date on vaccines because they exist for a reason. And the reason is the disease is worse than the potential side effects. I've only ever had 1 dog, excuse me, it was a bitch. I've only ever had 1 bitch who had problems with one of the vaccines, and we just gave her a pre-med, and she was fine. So, she had a little bit of an
What is a
allergic
titer?
reaction. Titer is the level of antibodies in the dog's blood. So if let's say you don't want to do leptospirosis every year, and there's going to be a lot of reasons that you probably should do leptospirosis as often as your vet recommends, but maybe you live in an area with no rats, no mice, no birds that leave droppings in your yard, nothing that comes into your yard that could possibly be carrying the leptovirus. And so your dogs don't go anywhere, so maybe you feel like you shouldn't have to do lepto every year. And your vet says, "Well," and I don't remember if lepto is one of the ones that has a 3-year version or not. Sorry. I don't pay attention, I just pay the bill. And when my
Right, yeah.
dogs get shots,
Uh-huh.
I just pay the bill. And that's not to say that I don't pay attention, it's to say that I do trust my veterinarian, and she and I are on the same page. And I have done titers in the past. So and one a lepto was one of them. So you give them a lepto the first time they're due a leptospirosis vaccine, and then the next year on that anniversary, you would do a titer, and you would see what is the level in her blood of leptospirosis antibodies. And if it's protective, then you don't give a vaccine. And if it's not protective, then you probably need to give the vaccine. So it's just a way of
Do you
knowing, is my dog protected right now or not?
Sure, yeah. Okay. That's good because you get that card in the mail that you're late on your vaccines for your dogs, and people
Yeah,
freak out.
yeah. It's not
Do you have
usually an emer
any That's good. Do you have any preference for the best meds for fleas and ticks?
I know what I've used. I think there are probably really good ones out there that I've never had experience with, but I've been using since it first came out, Sentinel Plus or Sentinel, the chewable one, whatever that one is. But it's heartworm medication that also contains medication for intestinal parasites and birth control pills for fleas. And since we live in the beautiful South of the United States, fleas are a huge problem here. And so I like giving my fleas birth control because they can get on my dog and bite it one time, and then they cannot lay viable eggs, which means it's not going to be too long before I don't have a flea problem at all in my backyard because no flea that's ever bitten my dog can lay a good egg or
Yeah.
an egg that's viable. So that's what
Yeah.
I use, but I haven't that first came out probably in the '90s, and I have not switched because I haven't had to, and there's probably much better ones out there, and that's just the one I'm really comfortable with.
Are you a fan of the collars?
Not really. And generally, I have not used flea collars because I've had more than one dog, and I don't want one dog biting on the flea collar of the other dog. If I only had one dog, oh, which by the way, right now I do, I still probably wouldn't put a flea collar on her because that's a lot of medication that's right up under her nose. So when I first moved into this house, the previous owners had at least one dog. I don't know how many, but they had at least one dog, and there were fleas in the backyard. So I just got some frontline because in addition to the Sentinel, you can put a topical on, and the topical goes right at the base of the neck between the shoulder blades. That's called the withers, and you just put it on their skin, part the coat, put the little dose on their skin, and go wash your hands. They can't reach it with their mouth. It has not a good smell, so even when you have more than one dog, you can put it on all of them, and the dogs will avoid that spot because it doesn't smell good,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it works really fast for the fleas. There's also a product called Capstar, I think. That's what it used to be called. If your dog if for some reason, let's say you took your dog to a boarding kennel and the dog next to it had huge flea problem and the boarding kennel people didn't know it, and your dog came home infested with fleas. Before you even let him in the house, you can give him a Capstar and let him sit there for I think like 30 minutes or so, and all the fleas are dead. I don't know how that works. I don't know how safe it is, but I do know if you've gotta kill a lot of fleas in a short period of time, that one will do it.
Yeah.
And that's a veterinary medicine too. You can't buy that at the grocery store.
Right. Yeah. We took one of our dogs to the vet, and I think she had a little lip thing. I called you about her, and they're talking about her teeth. Well, she was 11, and I'm not putting my dog under to clean her teeth. We've tried these swabs. Like, how many dogs are going to sit there and let you, or the toothbrush? What's your feeling on dental care?
I use a product that is made of green mussel, so it doesn't smell good, and I sprinkle that on her food, and then generally about once a year, Casey gets a dental. Casey gets a little more tartar buildup in her mouth than other dogs that I've had in the past, but, once every year or 2, they need their teeth cleaned, even if you're brushing them. I've never gotten into the habit of brushing dogs' teeth. I think it's fabulous if you can train your dog to have their teeth brushed, and I brush Casey's occasionally, and she just likes the toothpaste. That's the only reason she's difficult to brush her teeth is she just wants to eat the toothpaste. "Give me the toothpaste. I
Yeah.
want the toothpaste." Maybe I should get her some that doesn't have a flavor, and that might be better to try. But their dental health is as important to them, to their bodies, their entire body, as ours is to ours. If we get infections in our mouth, we're swallowing that. It's going all over our whole body. Same for the dogs.
Right. So you use it. What kind of toothpaste do you use? It's got to taste good. People probably want. What does she use?
Arm& Hammer makes, dog toothpaste for dogs. Do not use human toothpaste because most of that contains something that is deadly to dogs. And so don't use human toothpaste. Don't use human toothpaste. Did I say that enough? Don't use human toothpaste. Arm& Hammer makes a dog toothpaste, and they make a chicken flavored one, and I think they make a peanut butter flavored one, but they might make an unflavored one. I'm gonna have to check and see if they do, 'cause I have the the regular long-handled brush, and then I've got one that goes on my finger, but apparently most people's fingers are bigger than mine because it always ends up in Casey's mouth, and I have to retrieve it.
Now, I saw something that said if you freeze carrots and you give your dogs frozen carrots, that's good for their teeth. Do you agree with that?
Never tried it. Maybe. There are a lot of things that are worth a try. Would say that if you wanna spend money on a dental care for your dog, do it with an annual dental visit. If they have a little something that has to be removed or if you're having them neutered, and if they're going under anesthesia anyway, have their teeth cleaned while they're there because it's just more efficient that way. And then you can try other things, but in my experience, giving things like antlers and hoofs and even rawhide toys to keep the teeth clean, rawhide chews to keep the teeth clean. I've spent more money at the vet doing dental care on teeth that were broken, and I know people who have lost dogs to letting them chew a rawhide without watching, and the rawhide got wet and stringy and stuck in their throat, and they died. So, yeah, yeah, antlers will break your dog's teeth. Period. Paragraph. Don't ask me how I know. $800 later.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you said you sprinkle, what's that stuff called? Green mussel?
Man, I don't know. It's if you just Googled powder for dogs to keep their teeth clean, you'll probably come up with it. I buy it at Amazon and it's at the other end of
Okay,
the
cool.
house. So how about this? I will get the name of it for you when we're done and I will send you the name of it
Put it in the
and then
notes.
you can post it
Sure.
in the show notes. Does that work?
We can do that. Yeah,
Okay,
because people
perfect.
probably won't find out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll post it in the show notes.
Okay, so somebody out there just got a puppy, they wanna start training. Is there an age or, a time that's too early to train puppies? You're wasting your money, or you wait till they're 8, 9 months old?
Right now. Right now.
Right
Okay,
now.
so think about a human child. So when you start working with a tennis player, would you rather get him as a 5-year-old or would you rather get him as a 25-year-old beginner?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
Start the muscle seals. Yeah, I'll take the
Yeah,
early.
because when and they're mammals too, just like humans are. Dogs are mammals. So the same way that infants to about 7 or 8 years old are just sponges. The brain is designed to take things in and learn faster. It actually builds on itself in the really young years. The brain just really is like, I can learn this. And then now that I've learned this, I can learn this. And now that I've learned this makes sense over here. The same thing works with dogs. So, I mean, if you get a dog from a good breeder, they will have already started some of your training for you. They will have already started crate training. They will have already started house training. They will have already started, kind of getting the dog used to coming when called. And it doesn't most people, when they think of training, they think of a regimented training class that is no fun and we're going to learn. And that's not what dog training ever needs to be. Dog training needs to be fun. So, first of all, you don't need to start training if you're in a grouchy mood. Wait until you're in a good mood, then get your puppy and let's play something. And think about it as playing games and think about the end result that you want the game to produce. So, do you want the game to produce a dog that comes to you when you call their name? Then a really fun game to play with a baby puppy is, let's say that's a family of 4. Sit on the floor, north, south, east, west, kind of a circle like that, one person at each corner, and put the puppy in the middle. Everybody has either a fun toy for the puppy or little teeny tiny training treats because training should not make your dog fat. And dogs don't care how big the treat is, they just care that they get one. So little tiny training treats, and everybody takes turn calling the puppy. Say the puppy's name is Monkey. Monkey, come here, monkey, monkey, monkey. And then when monkey comes to them, and you say it like that because the monkey's going to come to you right now because they love that tone of voice. It's going to come running to you. Good job, and play with the toy or give them the treat. And then it's the next person's turn. And you just keep playing the game and set up a video camera and watch it later because it'll make you laugh. And it's fun, but you're also teaching the puppy's name and to come when called. And probably the most important thing that a puppy can ever learn is to come when you call it, because then you can get it out of an emergency situation.
That's awesome. That's great, and everybody gets to understand the conditioning and the cause and effect.
And everybody in the family gets a chance to be part of the puppy's training because everybody in the family needs to be the family dog's boss. Not necessarily, dictator, you will do what I say. But the puppy needs to know everybody in the family can ask me what to do and I'll do it for them. That's really good. And in most families, that doesn't happen. That dynamic is not set up. One person trains the dog and the dog listens to that one person and doesn't listen to anybody else in the house. And that as the dog gets older and older, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That becomes the kind of thing where nobody else wants to do anything with the dog because the dog won't do anything with them because they haven't done anything with the dog. So the earlier you can start everybody teaching the dog fun things, and it's fun things. Sit is fun, you know,
Yeah.
And it's not hard to teach. Down is much harder to teach than sit. So teach sit, work on down later. But, you can play with all kinds of fun things.
That's really cool. What's your feeling about long leashes? These retractable ones. I heard that they're not good because it feels like the dog's walking itself, and these dog's not walking with you, and you're the boss.
The thing about retractable leads that most people don't understand is that they are very dangerous. They are very dangerous. Now, I use one, but I don't use it to walk my dog. I use it to stand still when we're at an event and let her sniff around and find the spot she wants to potty in. That's a really good use for a retractable leash as long as there aren't any dogs around and there's not any traffic around. The retractable leads require you to be paying attention and paying attention to your dog, to the grip you have on the lead, and being able to quickly not only stop the lead, but pull it back in. And you can't crank it in. You can't reel them in like you're reeling a fish in. If you let your dog get 30 feet away from you, which some of those leads let you do, your dog could be dead by the time you see whatever the danger is coming. They get wrapped around things. They can hurt themselves. They can wrap around somebody else's leg. And then, if the lead is trying to retract, it can give if they have shorts on, really bad burn on the back of the leg. They're not really safe. It's and for also the reason that the dog feels like they're walking themselves. For a really
Sure.
well-trained dog, using a retractable lead isn't the worst thing in the world. But for most people, it is a pretty unsafe way to take your dog out into the world. So I like, 4-foot lead on a puppy to keep them nice and close to you so that if you need to pick them up, you still can. They're not going to range so far away from you that they can dart out in front of an oncoming car or trip a bicyclist or a jogger or an old person walking down the sidewalk. You can keep them pretty close to you. Once your dog gets better training, you can let them have a little bit more lead. But you need a dog that's going to come right back to you when you call them.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Now, I heard this that what do you think about being on the floor playing with your dog? I heard that if you do that too much, your dog thinks you're a dog, you're one of them instead of the hierarchy that you're the boss and they're the submissive. Is that true?
Yes and no. Again, it depends on whether you've established a relationship with your dog. If your dog understands that, okay, if mom says I have to do something, then I have to do it. Then that's fine. And once you've got that done, then you can sit on the floor and play with your dog. You can roll on the floor and play with your dog, but you start the play session and you end the play
Mhm.
session. It's like a lot of people say, don't play tug with your dog because then it teaches them that, they might be your equal. Well, not necessarily. I start the tug session. I end the tug session. The game is over when
Right.
I say it's over, not when they say it's over. So once you have that, you're fine. Some dogs don't like to be loomed over. They won't play with you if it's a little Havanese that's this big, and I'm not a tall person, but I'm 5'4" but a little dog this size, I'm a gargantuan giant. And they don't like to be
Hmm.
loomed over. So a lot of dogs
Yeah.
really hate that. And you might trigger a dog
Sure.
to want to bite if that's the only way that you play with them because you might be scaring them. So it's individual with the dog. It's a, it's a rule of thumb and it's not an absolute. It's just like raising children. There are no absolutes.
Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely don't murder them. Just try
Yeah.
not to do that and then we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, is it true that if you are, let's say you're in a room watching TV and you notice your dog looking at you, is it true to show that you're the boss? You stare down the dog until the dog looks away?
I typically, if a dog is wanting to maintain very intense eye contact with me, I maintain it, but I keep myself really soft. Not like, I'm the boss of you and I'm going to win this stare down. I keep my energy really soft, like, you have the prettiest
Okay.
eyes, and I'm just going to sit here and look at your eyes for a while. I hope that's okay with you. And they will blink, they will stop and look away. Sometimes they're just looking at you because they love you, not because they want to be your boss.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and then when you approach a stranger or a strange dog, are dogs submissive to you when they pull their ears back? Is that correct?
Generally. Generally, a dog that is really happy to see you and really like, "Oh, you're my friend, you're my friend." Everything goes back. their tail goes back and soft, their ears go back, they get a little grin on their face, their eyes turn into little squinty eyes. That's a dog
Yeah.
smile. That is a dog saying, "Hi, I'm not your boss. We can play."
Right.
It's a dog being
Yeah.
friendly. They're giving you a friendly overture
Right.
when that happens. Again, and there's more of those too. That one is the most extreme, but if there's a dog that's yawning at you, or your dog too, if something's going on and a dog yawns or licks their lips or blinks very slowly or does a full body shake, those are all signals that dogs give each other that's like, "Everything's okay, but it's time to calm down now." It's don't whereas the shake is shaking off play that was ramping up into possibly going beyond play into, a rumble. So when dogs disengage and they move off from each other and they shake, that's them just like, okay, we're shaking off that game. And then they'll go play another game because they're telling each other, yeah, we're not going to fight with each other. We were playing and we're shaking off that level of excitement. And the others are basically just like, oh, you're being too much. You're being too much. I'm gonna yawn at you. And the dogs understand. That's a calm down signal. They're called calming signals that dogs give each other. And if your dog is being a little too crazy and you want him to calm down, you can use them on your dog too. You can just look at him and yawn or lick your lips.
Right.
Really,
That's great.
you know,
Yeah.
it sounds like the dumbest thing in the world, but it works.
Yeah.
The full body
Yeah.
shake is harder for humans to pull off, but
But I guess, can you tell a story? And this is so similar to tennis because when you've got a tight tennis grip, that's the first thing I tell somebody when they're struggling with something. Hey, loosen your grip right away. And they start to realize, hey, I'm trying too hard. Can you tell the story? I'm not sure if it was somebody told you or you told somebody else as a handler that you were holding the leash very tight and you had a problem with the dog in the ring. And once you loosened it up, things got better. You remember that?
yes, I do. So remember right at the beginning, I told you there's so many parallels between your kind of training and my kind of training. You probably end up with a lot of people who are they want to get it right and they're stressed. And that's why the grip is too tight. And that's why, maybe their eyes are a little big. Maybe their breathing is a little shallow. I get a lot of the same thing in my handling classes. And when I'm teaching a seminar, I get a lot of people who really want to make sure that they get it right. And that's just human nature. We don't want to be wrong. We want to be right. And so, in an effort to try to make it right, they get it 100% wrong a lot of the times. And part of it is their stress level is stressing out the dog. And part of it is, as part of their stress, they want to keep too much tension on the lead. They want to keep like a straight line between their hand and the dog because then they feel like they're controlling the dog. And what they're doing is it even intensifying this level of stress going straight down the lead to their dog. So if you just step back, take 2 or 3 really long, slow, deep breaths. No holds at the top, no holds at the bottom, just in and out. And the kind of breath that makes, if this is your spine and this is your belly button, that makes your belly button get as far away from your spine as possible. And then as you exhale, get your belly button as close to your spine as possible. Those are the kind of breaths that you have to take. But those reset your brain. They reset the fight or flight thing that's going on in your brain that says, no, you have to get this right. You have to get this right. They just make that go away. So that's one of the first things I teach people in handling class when I see that they really want to get it right. It's like, no, you have to be chill before your dog can learn. And what I really mean is you have to be chill before you can learn. but I put it on the dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
can't
awesome. I
put
love it
it on
because,
the tennis racket though, can you? Your
yeah,
tennis racket
exactly.
can't
Yeah.
learn how to make this shot.
I crack up because when people miss, I say, hey, look at Joe. He just looked at his racket. His racket's not cooperating because he made the mistake, but he looked at his racket. That does
Yep.
happen.
Yep.
Because I think that's awesome because dogs sense fear and they sense your anxiety.
Absolutely.
All right. I got a question. And this girl here, she was our first baby, Blanca,
Yeah.
Ken and Sheila Smith. That's who we got our first husky from them after we talked to you at the dog show. She was 6 months old. She was fifth generation champion, and I had to sign a piece of paper I remember I was in their sunroom and Blanca was running around, and as I'm signing the papers that we would never show her or breed her because she's fifth generation champion, she jumps up and pulls this plant down. And I thought that's hilarious. And I thought, uh-oh, this dog's coming to my house to do this.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you say that your dog's a champion, what does that mean? They have to do what to become a champion?
Well, if you're talking about a show ring champion, which Ken and Sheila's dogs were, and my dogs all have been, a show ring champion is a dog that fits the standard. Now, remember we were talking about the standard. It's a whole bunch of pieces of words that you put together that describe the perfect specimen of that breed, if a perfect specimen could be found. That's what the judge is looking for when the judge is judging that breed in the dog show. It's like, okay, I want the perfect one. I know I'm not going to find the perfect one, so I'm looking for closest to perfect. And every day at a dog show, the judge in each breed finds one male and one female who are not yet champions, generally. I'm not going to go in the weeds, but I'm just going to say for this conversation, not yet champions, one male, one female that get points towards their championship, depending on how many of their same sex and breed they defeated. This sounds way more confusing than it is. But anyway, they get points towards their championship. You have to accumulate minimum of 15 points, and at least 2 of the wins have to be 3, 4, or 5 points. 5 is the maximum you can get at any show. So if you have a really, really good dog and 3 really good judges in a row, and 3 big entries, you can have a champion in 3 shows. 5-point major, 5-point major, 5-point major. That'll be under at least 2 different judges. Knocks out your 2 majors. It's your 15 points. Now you have a champion. For most of us, it takes a lot longer than that, but that's the
Yeah.
part of the fun. You know, when you go to the dog show, if the same dogs won every single day, nobody would go to the dog show anymore. Every judge has a slightly
Right.
different idea of what the perfect version of that breed would be. So you go and you try to earn your championship points, and when you earn your championship points, voila, you're a champion. And that just
Yeah.
means that you are a good, worthy representative of the breed. And so that doesn't mean that Maya was bad. It just means that in Ken and Sheila's estimation, there was something or some combination of things about her that were not worthy of being bred. And if you don't want to breed it, you don't want to show it either. It just doesn't need to go to the dog show. It can go to the dog show and do obedience and rally and agility and duck diving and cat and fast cat and barn hunt and all the other fun things that, the performance sports.
Yeah.
You can go do those with
Right.
her well, if she was still here, you could do those with her all day long. That nothing
Yeah.
they just were asking you not to breed her and not to show her
Right.
because she's not
Yeah.
of the quality that they wanted to see in the show ring.
Yeah. I remember when I walked in, he was in a really good mood. He said he just got off the phone, found out that one of his other dogs got 2 points today. I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm thinking, what in the world's that about? But
Yep.
no, I
So
know
yep. So that's good. It's not a major win, but 2 points is 2 points.
2 points adds
So
up, right?
yep. That's what they have to do. So for most people, if you're strategic about it and you are patient enough to wait until your dog is mature before you show them, which most of us aren't because we just want to go to the dog show and take our dog in the ring and have a good time. But if you're strategic and you plan it and you have your dog in great condition and they're nice and mature, you can finish a dog within a month. And for most of us, it takes a year, maybe 2, depending on how many
Yeah.
shows you go to. For most of us,
Sure.
it's a hobby.
Right. What's that mean when dogs are sleeping? You see their legs twitching.
They're dreaming.
Are they running dreams or
They're
what is
dreaming.
that?
They're dreaming. Yep. They'll also make little, like, noises in their sleep while they're like we
Yeah.
talk in our sleep. They
Yeah.
twitch in their sleep. It's their brain's nervous system moving around. Apparently, that must be REM sleep for them too, is my guess. Because our version is REM, where the brain allows us to move. Most of the time when we sleep, the piece of our brain that allows us to get up and go wandering around gets shut off for safety. Especially back in cavemen and cavewoman days, if we were out walking around, we might become dinner to the saber-toothed tiger if we were out sleepwalking and didn't know what we were doing. So it's a safety thing, but In
Yeah.
dogs, I think it's the same thing. I think they're they're
Okay.
they're dreaming.
Yeah.
So I always say, "Casey, did you catch the bunny? Did you catch that bunny you were chasing?"
Yeah. Or squirrel, chipmunk.
Or
Yeah.
squirrel.
Yeah.
Bunny's just fun to say.
Yeah. What they like those too. Um,
Yes.
why do dogs sniff each other's ears and then sometimes lick said ear?
Well, sometimes they lick each other's ears just as a way of showing, it's grooming behavior. So it even happens in the puppy's litter as litter mates where they're exploring each other and they'll lick each other's ears, they'll sniff ears. Sometimes if all of your dogs suddenly get interested in one particular dog's ears, that dog probably needs to go to the vet and have the ears checked because it might be a yeast infection or some kind of other infection down in the ears. Yeast is pretty common. And sometimes it's just grooming behavior. And sometimes dogs just like to lick ears. They think ears taste delicious. I had one dog who was an ear cleaner, and he just thought, and I had the rest of the dogs had the cleanest ears in the house. He cleaned
Right.
everybody's ears. Yeah,
Okay.
he just liked it
Now, somebody out there is going to say, why? And I'm going to ask this for a random person out there. Why do dogs go up and sniff each other's butts?
because that tells them all about the other dog. It's it's what sex are you? Are you currently in season and breedable? What did you eat last? All kinds of things. What is your mental status right now? Are you relaxed? Are you stressed? The dog's body position will tell when one dog tries to sniff another, stress shows really fast in this dog that doesn't want to be sniffed. But that's just like we shake hands. I would much rather our way of doing it for humans. I don't want to go around sniffing people's butts. But
A little
dogs
bit
really
better.
enjoy it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? No, what are you doing down there? So,
I know, but they're they're
what now?
they're learning about each other. That is their way of
Yeah.
introducing themselves because most of the time when they do it, they put their butt in the vicinity of the other dog too. So they're offering theirs and sniffing this one. It's
Yeah.
very rare that a dog comes straight behind another dog to sniff it that way. That's
Yeah.
that's would probably be considered rude in dog parlance.
Yeah. Well, and then you can tell what the first one thinks when they turn around. So
Exactly.
now, why do dogs, when they sit down, it's like they come to their spot or their little pad or the couch, wherever they sleep. Why do they always turn circles?
There's a lot of theories on that. Fluffing up the bedding is probably the best answer that I have. Maybe just looking around to make sure that they understand who's where. What's my environment look like? Now I'll lay down. Or let me fluff the bed. What's my environment look like? Now I can relax. Some of that may depend on the dog's personality, and I'm guessing on those, but that's what I've always surmised.
Yeah. Now, why did dogs randomly s- spin and chase their own tails? They got nobody else to
Because it's
play with.
fun. Because it's fun.
Okay.
They've got some energy. They want to play. This thing back there just caught their eye. They may as well go chase it. Some
Yeah.
Again, some dogs will do that one or two times in their life and never do it again, and other dogs are just like, "This is the best game ever. I carry this game
Yeah.
with me all the time. I wanna play this game
Yeah.
again."
Yeah.
And I've had both
And
kinds of
then,
dogs. Yeah.
and it's funny when they do bite. It's like, what are you gonna do now?
I know, right?
Yeah. That's funny. Can dogs see color?
Differently than we do. They see far less color than we do, but they see it with I think the latest research that I read is they see the colors that they do see with better definition than we see, but I don't think they see as many colors. The vision is not their primary sense. Scent is their primary sense.
Yeah.
So their brain is wired for their nose. They meet the world with their nose. So if you have a dog that has no vision at all, don't feel too bad for it because as long as it can still use this piece, it's not worried. Their brain
I don't.
has
I don't know. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say much more of their brain is designed to support their nose and tell them about the world that their nose is bringing in than their eyes. It's very,
Yeah.
very much less than ours. Ours is the reverse. Ours is eyes.
Right.
We are
Yeah.
visual.
Judging by the way their tails, when ours corner a or smell something in one of the railroad ties, their tails go circular. It's hilarious. You just think three butts up, but that's a chipmunk in there that probably doesn't have much of a chance.
Yeah. Helicopter tails.
Yeah, that's all right. This is more my tennis mind, and I'm curious, and I don't even know if it matters, but can dogs be one hand dominant, right handed, left handed, or
Yeah.
when
Yep.
you're teaching them to shake, if I put out this hand, do they mirror me with that paw, or is it a dominant thing?
It's gonna depend on what else you've taught them and what their level of expectation is. So, with Casey, when I was teaching her paw, I hadn't taught her anything about doing anything with the other, with one foot or the other. But if you have taught, this foot down first, whatever, then you can bet that they're gonna play with that foot first because it has paid them before. Doing something with that foot has paid them before. Does that make sense? Otherwise,
Yeah.
they're gonna go with their dominant. They'll start with their dominant, and if the dominant doesn't work, then they might mirror you. Again, that one depends on the dog and what else they know and what their experience with you is. But dogs
Well,
are
our son,
either yeah, right-footed or left-footed. They are.
okay, it's hard to tell because you don't see him kick a ball or anything, but
No, but you
our
can
son
watch
does
them.
something with
Go
watching
ahead.
what?
No, go ahead with your
Oh,
son.
go ahead. He's done something with Ozzy. He'll say, "Paw, give me your other paw," and then he'll do both. I watch it. Sometimes he leads with his left, sometimes with his right. So
Yep. So that's a cool game. It's real. I mean, it's just fun to teach things to your dog, and the stupider the better, because then when you have people come over, you can say, "You wanna see what my dog can do?" And it makes people laugh.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah,
when
exactly.
you're teaching agility, it's good to know, does your dog prefer a right lead or a left lead? And so then, you could just kinda watch him jump and just stand back and ask him to do a jump or ask him to jump up on the pause table or ask him to do one of the contact obstacles and see which foot they put first most of the time. That's gonna be their lead foot.
Okay,
That's their dominant
yeah,
foot.
there you go. That's neat. I like that. Now I noticed some of ours have done this, and it seems like all of ours have done this. It'll be 90 degrees and they're sitting in the sun. And another thing I notice is like when you see a dog rise up from a nap or wake up in the morning, they do the most beautiful stretches, hence the downward dog. It seems to me like, shouldn't we learn from dogs? They're doing things that God intended us to do. They're getting vitamin D and they're stretching. It's just beautiful. So many things that they do, even when it's hot. You look at this Siberian sitting on the deck just in heaven.
Just soaking up the sun. Yep. And you look at it and you go, "How can that possibly be comfortable with that fur coat on?" And yet, they stay there for what feels like the right length of time to them, and then they move because 'cause they're sensible. So, you kinda let them do, but you're right about the first morning stretch. Man, if we got out of bed and stretched like that, the way our dogs do first thing every morning, our bodies would feel so much better throughout the day.
Yeah.
It is. It's important to really kind of pay attention to what your dog does and say, wonder if that would benefit me." Maybe not so much sniffing the dog's butt, though.
All right. Can can dogs have autism?
That's a really good question. I have had a dog that he was not my breeding. I got him after he finished his championship, and he needed a retirement home, and I got to be his retirement home. And I would look at him and I'd say, "Baby, were you oxygen deprived at birth?" He just didn't learn the same way that the rest of my dogs learned. So, and some of that is maybe the way the way the litter was raised, because 'cause I'm real specific. I do a series of exercises on a schedule for about 10 days that really is it's called early neurological stimulation, and you end up with dogs that have great brains. I mean, they really learn really well, and so he came from a breeder that doesn't do that, and so he didn't have that, and I'm used to dogs that learn really well, and then I've got this one. So I don't know. I mean, it could have been oxygen deprived at birth. It could have been that he's neurologically, I guess, neurodivergent. It might exist in dogs too. I don't know. That's a great question
Yeah.
that I really don't have an answer for.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't.
Dogs cope. because they don't worry about what it is they have, they just don't worry about it. They don't like, "Oh, my foot hurts, I'm gonna fret on my foot hurting. I'm gonna worry about what my foot hurting could be." No, they just limp a little while, and then they feel better, and they quit limping. You
Yeah.
I don't think they obsess on things like we do.
I think it's interesting, all the stressful things that we do without realizing it. It's like a good friend of mine up in Pennsylvania. He said, when I bring that suitcase out of the closet and put it on the bed to go to on a business trip, the dog's pouting. Or if two people raise their voices, it doesn't have to be a fight. People are just elevating. And why do dogs separate? And these stressful things. And it's like, wow, they send messages too.
Their whole job, their whole life, if you think about it, is paying attention to us because we are what makes their life work. Unless you have dogs that live in the backyard and they don't ever come in the house and they don't get much interaction. And if you've got that kind of dog, I always wonder why, because then it's a chore. It's not something fun and wonderful to have as part of your life, but their choice. Your dog watches you. That your dog gets up when you get up. Your dog's going to get fed when you are feeding them. Your dog is going to go for a ride or a walk when you are going to take them for a ride or for a walk. And it doesn't take them very long to realize that this set of tennis shoes means I'm going walking. That if mom's putting on lipstick and then puts on shoes and then picks up the car keys, if I look really cute, maybe I get in the car and go for a ride. Their whole job is to pay attention to the cues that we give them. So there's an adage that your dog knows you better than you do, than you know yourself. And I think in scary ways, that's probably true.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great way to put it too. Now, when you have multiple dogs, and unfortunately one passes away, and I called and asked you about this one time. I said, can the one that's left be depressed or down?
Yes.
Do they feel that sense of loss?
Yes. I'm living with one right now. I had to put my standard poodle down, and I mean, he was ready. It was time, and Casey is Casey is coping, and Casey and I are having fun. She gets more of me than she had while Archie was here, and so we're having fun playing different kind of training games. And yet, Casey is used to having another dog as part of her life, and she doesn't have that right now. And so she's a little more low key. And one of the things that has been interesting to me is I've had dogs for a very long time, and I've had a lot of dogs. And I've made the decision, known it was time and taken a dog to the vet, and never have had the situation where the vet comes in and the other dogs are there. I've always gone to the vet. We go in, I come home, and it's almost like instantaneously the other dogs know. And I've always said that it's, death has a very strong smell, and they must be on me because the other dogs know that dog's not coming back. So dogs, again, their nose is their main sense of the world. Scent is their main sense of the world. And so, and we'll never know how much they know about the world just by this. Maybe the keys smell different when they're gonna get to go in the car. I don't know, that could be. But yeah, dogs know. Researchers would probably say, "Well, you can't say a dog is depressed." Well, okay, maybe just because I don't have any actual clinical measurements for it, we can't say it's clinical depression. But I know when my dog's depressed. I know when she's sad. I know when she is,
Yeah, the behavior.
you know? Yeah,
Right. Yeah,
I don't need a research study to tell me that.
I agree. Yeah. Now, when dog owners have multiple dogs, 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, is there always pack orientation? Is there always an alpha, or is that more of a husky thing?
No, generally, there's gonna be one dog who's like the matriarch, and I'm gonna say matriarch because generally it's going to be a female. With most breeds, there are some breeds where it will be a male, but most of the breeds, most of the time, if you've got a house full of dogs of mixed breeds and everybody's spayed and neutered, 9.9 times out of 10, it's going to be one of the females who is the boss. And it doesn't even have to look like being the boss. The best boss I ever had in my house was named Chapin. And Chapin didn't even have to say a word. She didn't even have to stand up. If two dogs were getting too rowdy or it was, was getting to be just more than she wanted to have going on, all she had to do was stiffen. Just her body would just get stiff and quiet, including ears went up, but she might be laying on the ground and her body just got stiff, her ears went up, and she'd look at him. And it would be like instantaneous. Oh, never mind. Never mind. We weren't doing that. We'll stop now. She was amazing. And I don't even know how, because she was very sweet. She was a very laid back, she was a great therapy dog. She was my first therapy dog. And she was a fabulous therapy dog, but she knew exactly what everybody needed. But she also knew in my house who needed to be told to knock it off. But she didn't bark, and she never chased him, and she wasn't mean. She wasn't what you would call dominant. She was just in charge.
Leader, huh?
And they all knew it. They're just like, okay.
Yeah. Well, that brings up something to me. Are lead dogs alpha dogs on the sledding teams? Or do they all just assume a role?
I've never fielded a sled dog team. I have let a musher use a couple of my dogs before. And so I would be guessing on this one, but my guess would be the leaders are the lead dogs because they are the lead dogs. And the rest of the dogs are willing to follow them. And the lead dog has to be, so it's not just the leader in the dog hierarchy yard, because that dog may not be responsive enough to the training with the musher. And they may not, they may not have the kind of relationship where the musher is 50 feet away or more sometimes, depending on how big the team is. The musher's a long way away, cannot make the dog do what you ask the dog to do. But if the musher says, Casey, go G, Casey's going to take the right-hand trail because Casey, if I was the musher, Casey's going where I tell her to go. That's the training she has. And so the musher and his dog have to have that. And the other dogs have to respect the lead dog enough to be willing to follow them, even though they have to follow them because they're all attached to the same gang line. They don't necessarily have to run. Dogs only run because they want to. That's, that seems simplistic, but it's like a Labrador retriever. It's going to be hard to keep that lab out of a pond if you walk them past the pond because that's their job. Their job is to get in the pond,
Yeah.
find something, and bring it to you. And that's what they were
Right.
designed to do. So, and sled dog breeds were bred to run all day long, pulling a light load at a moderate speed for a very long distance. And in order to do that, they have to all be working as part of a team, and they have to respect the dogs that are at the head of the line. So that's my very long way of saying, yeah, probably they're the boss in the kennel. Probably.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Now, my wife and I were talking about what would be some of these good questions to ask you, and we've got one in the house. More about a dog's frustration. What if you ever have a alpha wannabe, that one that
Yes.
wants to be the leader? Tell me
Yep.
about that.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
That is when having more than one dog can be very challenging because we don't see the cues that the dogs give each other the way the dogs see them. We can read the big cues that dogs give each other, and we can often see it, but there are a lot of times that people said, "Your dog started that fight," when no, the person who said that, their dog started the fight, and all it might have been was just a side eye. It might not have been a single other muscle in the body move except the way they looked at that dog. And that is a signal to the other dog. It's like, yeah, I'm going to whale eye at you. And whale eye with another dog is just like, it's, are you ready to rumble? Because I am. Let's get it.
It's on.
And yeah, it's
Right.
on. So yeah, I've had the situation, and typically it was when one was getting to be very old, who had been the boss, and I had a younger one who wanted to be the boss, and that can be pretty ugly. And that becomes a management thing. But try really hard not to don't literally get between the two of them if they're fighting, because you will get bitten. Not because they mean to, but because they're just biting each other. So if it's escalated to that point, then yeah, figure out a different way to separate them. Don't put your body parts in there because it's not worth you getting bitten to break it up. Let them, if they're going to hurt each other, let them hurt each other. But get a chair in there. If you can pick up the rear of one of the dogs, The dog that is up in the air, back legs up in the air, cannot land another bite. They have to have their back feet on the ground in order to bite. So if you can pick up the back ends and just wait until they let their bites go, one person on one back end and one person on the other back end. And as soon as
Yeah.
they let their bites go,
Yeah.
back up. That's how you break up. That's the safest way to break up a fight. Or, you could try spraying them with water, but if
Yeah.
they're very intent on fighting each other, they're going to fight. And to keep it from escalating to that point, a lot of times it just becomes management. You just know which two dogs you can't let go out in the yard together. And that's not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fun, but it keeps the dogs safe and it doesn't let things escalate.
Yeah. It's the darndest thing because she's the smallest, but her bite, you think her small teeth really can't hurt, but you don't want them having that behavior. It's almost like your children fighting. It's heartbreaking. It's like, how dare you guys fight with each other? And then you look at her, and we have said, quit being such a little bitch.
Mhm.
Just you know, and it wasn't fighting over food and stuff. It's really fun because we've had 7 Siberians, and every personality is so different, and they're just awesome at the same time too.
Yeah, they really are. So that situation, are they okay generally in the room, but the little one just decides it's time to pick? Is
It
that the
doesn't happen
situation
that
that you have?
much. It's
Okay,
yeah, it's well, our big boy Logan passed away. He was 13, and then she thought she was the boss. And I remember calling you because she was picking on Zoe. And then
right.
when we got Ozzy, 3 months later, Ozzy's this big boy, but he's a good bit younger, but he just kind of puts his butt in her way and she doesn't know what to do about it. So she's not the alpha and she respects her big brother who's smaller or younger, but it works, just you just know sometimes like waking up, she gives her a look like, wait, she can go outside too. Stop giving her that look and she'll start like then you say knock it off and she'll knock it off. And it's just you can sense it because her whole body does this. It's like, okay, to be as sweet as you are and small as you are, you shouldn't act like that. But
Yeah. So
it's
sometimes,
it's all part of it.
yeah, sometimes if it's that kind of behavior, I teach a dog that they're gonna get squirted in the face. And some dogs like a spray bottle in the face, but because it's like, "Oh, I get to play with the water, Casey."
Yeah.
But most dogs don't like to be squirted right in the face, especially when it's a
Right.
surprise. So, on something like that, if you know the time and the situation, then be ready with a squirt bottle in your hand, and have it set on hard spray and hit her right in the face as soon as you see the behavior, not even a word. As soon as you see her start to stiffen, spray her in the face. And
Yeah.
unless she loves to
Yeah.
be sprayed in the face, that will remind her that this is gonna happen to you every single time you behave like that. So you can stop behaving like that, but it has to be every time. So every time you go to the back door and she gives that stiff, spray her.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
quick, 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 and you don't have to say a word. You don't say anything. You just let the bottle do the talking,
Yeah.
and
That's
it
great.
might
I
help.
think a lot of
It
people
might
benefit
help.
from that.
Water in the bottle, by the way, nothing else. Water,
Just water. Yeah.
just
Right.
water. Yep.
Well, do dogs have their favorites of people?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
I was
Are
just
you the
getting
favorite in your
confirmation
house,
from
or
the
is it your
expert.
wife?
No, no, she is with 2 of them, and then the littlest one becomes a daddy's girl. I mean, it's unsolicited, but
Right.
it's interesting, because the big boy loves her and sits next to her, and when I sit next to my wife, he will sit up, and then he wants to be there. It's hilarious, and
Mhm.
it's you gotta I have to now he'll pull this game with me where I sit. If I'm not in the room, he'll sit there.
In your
So,
space.
if I go in yeah, oh, yeah, it's cat and mouse.
Mhm.
Act like he's gotta go outside, and then I go to the door, and he comes back and takes my seat. "Gotcha, dad." Yeah, so it's fun. It's nuts.
Will he move if you ask him to move?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't put up a fight, and, so there's none of that, and we wouldn't tolerate growling back. I mean,
Right.
we are the bosses, so,
Yep.
um okay, people wanna know why do huskies howl, and they think that they're originated from wolves. Dispel
No.
that myth.
They are no more related to wolves than chihuahuas are, and I think I recently saw a piece piece of research that suggests that perhaps Chihuahuas are more wolf-like than Siberians are. Siberians look like a wolf, but only because they have Arctic characteristics, and so do wolves. The basic dog archetype is a wolf and a coyote, and Siberians have that archetype. So in Australia, their basic dog archetype is a dingo, which also is pretty similar. It's erect ears because those are necessary for being able to hear prey and predators that might be coming to get them. Um, Eyes that are kind of almond shaped with tight lids and a little bit obliquely set. A muzzle that's about the same length as the back skull is, so 50-50 head piece. Legs maybe a little bit longer than the depth of body, maybe about the same. Body slightly longer than it is tall at the withers. Double coat for weather protection, but not a long coat because long coats get tangled in briar patches and then the dog's going to become prey there. That's just a basic dog archetype, and Siberians are just a pretty version of that.
It's a great description. I like that. And when they howl and their communication, it's hilarious and awesome. And it's fun to trigger that. And people that come over and then they start that to like, oh my goodness, but it's fun.
It is, and you can feel it in your bones when you're near a couple of dogs that are howling. And honestly, there are a lot of breeds of dogs that howl. Siberians are just famous for it, but maybe because Siberian influencers all over the internet being allowed to behave like brats. That's life with a Siberian can be way, way, way better than those reels that you see on Facebook. They're
Mhm.
not all brats. They don't have to be. Yeah. They're only brats if you let them be. And they're only mouthy and talky if you let them be, or if you encourage them to be that way. Casey's my first one who howls at sirens, and I can't get her to start howling. I've always been able to teach my dogs to howl on cue. She will not howl if I howl. She does not howl if there are dogs howling on television or wolves howling
Wow.
on television. She doesn't
Yeah.
howl if the dogs next door howl. But let an ambulance fire up, and she has the most beautiful tenor that you've ever heard. That's the only reason, that's the only time she howls.
Wow.
Yep,
But she can.
she can.
Yeah.
But she just likes to sing along with her pal, the ambulance, or a
Yeah.
fire truck,
That's good.
or police
Yeah.
car. That'll all work.
Now, why are huskies such killers when it comes to things like squirrels and chipmunks and unfortunately cats? I mean, anything small, it's prey.
If it's small and it's furry and it runs away when it's frightened, it's lunch. The Chukchi people, who were the tribal people, the nomadic people in Siberia, where the breed originated, fed the dogs in the wintertime when food was not plentiful. But in summertime, when food was plentiful, they did not feed the dogs. The dogs had to forage and get their own food. And so that's why Siberians are really good at getting their own food. Even though they know if they come in the house, they get bowls in here. Out there, they get it on the hoof. So yeah, it's just part of what they were, part of the basic design of the breed. Because the Chukchi people were busy working and doing other things, catching fish, drying fish, tanning skins, doing all the subsistence things that they had to do just to survive a wintertime in Siberia. That's what they did in the summertime. Feeding dogs was not high on their list in the summertime. Food's plentiful. Go get you
Yeah.
some. So
Right. And they do.
that's why they have a very high prey drive. It's the only reason they survived.
Yeah. That like they call animal instinct, right?
Yep. Yep. They had to know how to feed themselves, otherwise they did not live to reproduce. So the very best hunters are the ones who live to reproduce, and we have their offspring. They live in our house.
Okay, so let's have some fun here. Can you think back with all your huskies? What are some of the craziest things that they've eaten? Obviously, that they shouldn't have eaten.
Okay, the most dangerous thing, and who would have thought that this would be interesting, but still on me because I left it out. I was doing some mending. I was hemming something or putting a button on or something. And I had those, the pin cushion that looks like a tomato. I had the little tomato pin cushion, and the pins and the needles were all sticking all out of it. And the next thing you know, I'm at the vet's office. We're doing x-rays to see whether he swallowed any because he ate half of the pin cushion. So, yeah. Thankfully, he didn't eat any of the pins or the needles, but that was the first one that really it was not the first crazy thing, but it was the thing that taught me before I walk out of a room, make sure nothing deadly is where the dog can get it if it might be potentially interesting. I don't even know why he thought that was fun. Maybe it looked like a ball and he thought it was a ball. I don't know. But he ate half of that pincushion. So that was the scariest one. Oh, okay. So when Casey was a puppy, and thankfully I had already been working on drop it training. That is, again, one of the first things I teach my dog is if it's in your mouth and I want it, drop it. And I always pay really highly for drop it. It was a fabulous high value treat that she didn't get for any other reason than drop it. And we'd play drop it. Anytime she had something in her mouth, we'd play that game. So she came in the house and had a little tail sticking out of the side of her mouth. It looked like she had a lizard in her mouth. So I said, drop it. And she put her nose in my hand and then came back up and it was still there. So I was like, no, we don't play that game that way. So I opened her mouth and started pulling on the tail because I realized she had swallowed it and probably couldn't drop it because it was in her throat. So I start pulling on the tail and I keep pulling and pulling. Do you know what a DeKay's brown snake is? It's a
No.
very small snake that eats garden slugs and probably 12 to 15 inches long, maybe. She had been trying to swallow that DeKay's brown snake and just couldn't get the last piece of it swallowed. So
Ugh.
it was quite dead when I pulled it out. And snakes don't bother me. I like snakes. They don't bother me. Don't come to me with a spider stuck in your mouth though, because you're on your own. But yeah, poor little snake was gone, but yeah, drop it
Boy.
training failed that day because she couldn't.
Well, that's a small little piece of that's like a little hors d'oeuvre for lunch before the squirrel, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but she was a baby little girl. I mean, she was maybe 15 weeks old. So, and had found it in the backyard and she had the prize. So thankfully it was a
And then,
non-venomous snake. Decays are not venomous. They're very
yeah,
beneficial little snakes.
huskies are so quick, and some of the moves they make, it's just lightning fast. It's like, wow.
Yep. On the other hand, I have had 4 dogs bitten, actually 3 dogs, 1 twice because he was a slow learner, 4 dogs bitten by copperheads. And that shows you that the Siberians meet the world with their face because all 3 of the bites were on the face, which is better than a foot. So, because there's better circulation here than there is here on a dog. If your dog has to be bitten by a snake, ask for it to be bitten on the face, not the foot.
So what'd you do when that happened? How'd you know that was bit by a snake? Swelling?
Because they were swelling up like crazy, and it was a copperhead all 4 times. Swelling up like crazy, they're depressed and coming to me like, "Fix this, fix this." And when I looked at it, it's like 2 punctures here and 1 puncture here. I'm just missing a puncture. I'm missing 1 fang mark, so maybe it didn't land or maybe it's in there and it's just not bleeding. Or maybe it was a glancing blow, it didn't go in. Yeah, it's like, "Okay, call the emergency vet, coming on in." And I knew they were copperheads because that's what we had in the backyard. The husband had this the husband had a, theory that the only good snake was a dead snake. When we moved into that house, we had king snakes and black snakes living in the backyard, and he killed them all. And so then we had copperheads living in the backyard because king snakes and black snakes think that copperheads are delicious. Please don't kill
Mhm.
beneficial snakes because then you end up
Right.
with the non-beneficial snakes.
Boy.
Yeah. Just leave snakes alone. They'll leave you alone. They'll leave your
Yeah,
dogs
right.
alone too, most of the time.
Oh, wow. What a scare. I wrote down a list of stuff. Blanca, she ate an avocado. She ate my wife's phone one time. I was like, that was
No.
nice. Yep. Yeah. That, and then, let's see, Chloe and Shrek came in one day and the cushioned the leather couch.
It just exploded. They
Yeah.
didn't know what happened.
Yeah. And then you looked like, which one of you did it? It was like, we couldn't tell. I mean, it was, and then Shrek was our $10,000 dog. He ate, an ace bandage, which the vet called us and said it was like a hamstring wrap, and the vet clipped off the hamstring wrap from the small intestine, and the small intestine started working, and he lived. She goes, he was
Good.
knocking on heaven's door. Yeah. Let's see what else. He also, oh, one day my wife had him tied up to the banister on his leash. I said, why is he on the leash? And she said, well, he keeps like wanting to throw something up, but every time I get near him, he stops. And so she was just waiting him out. So I
Mhm.
was waiting him out around the corner, and then he started, and I reached down because I saw something, and it was a nice little rectangle. And I thought, well, that's not good. He was his tongue was flipping over, but he was acting fine. But it was like a circus act. I wish it was on film because I started doing this. It was the sash to my wife's robe.
No.
He was totally fine. It just
Dogs eat
oh
stupid
yeah,
things. They do.
yeah. And then he was the one that got the nutty professor lip. He got stung by bees, and nice $200 shot of Benadryl from the vet, 30 minutes later. And Logan, he was the one that would, he was very wolf-like in the fact that, we would tell babysitters, do not leave the room. He would eat the remote. He would eat their phone. He would take their shoe and whatever, and to his kennel and weed you out. It was hilarious one day, the whole tree skirt from behind the Christmas tree. It was all the way down the stairs to his kennel. He was like, he would take random crap. He took an aerosol can of Shot Spot that was in his kennel one day, and I'm like, "Well, you
Holy
dodo, what
cow.
are you gonna do with that?" And then we heard this sound like an M80 going off. He punctured it, and then he ran out of the kennel, and he was totally fine, but I'm sure it scared the crap out of him. I'm like,
Well,
"But
yeah.
we couldn't." Yeah, you leave a loaf of bread on the counter when you're taking groceries, and he would grab it, tube of toothpaste. I mean, just he's
So
you know,
everything was his.
those
Mine. I
they
told you,
surf the
mine.
counter, right? Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to be considerate of your time. I want to wrap up with a few questions. Now, how many books have you authored? And there's one about vets that I'm curious about.
Yes. I don't know. That's a good question. I think either 6 or 7. And the committee in the back of my head is working on another one right now. So, but either author or co-author. I think I co-authored 3, and then I've written 4. So I think that's right. And
And you had
the
one about,
veterinarian one, yeah, the
yeah,
one about veterinarians was coming from a place of real concern. Veterinarians have a very high rate of suicide, which most people don't know, and most pet owners don't understand that we are part of the problem as clients. We don't mean to be, but we are part of the problem. So part of it is that the people who go into the veterinary medicine field are all high achievers. They all have very high I'm going to paint with a broad brush, not every one of them, but by and large, this is the archetype. They are high achievers. They had to be because it's harder to get into vet school than it is to get into medical school. So they're very high achievers. They're very driven individuals. They have set high expectations of themselves. They expect to be able to do things the first time that they've ever done them and do it well. They don't expect to fail. They don't expect to have to ask for help on things. They expect themselves to be either know how to do it or be able to figure out how to do it. And they go into the field because they love animals and they want to help animals. And they come out of vet school and here they are in their dream job. Their whole life they have dreamed of being a veterinarian. Their whole life has been focused towards this. And they come out of vet school and yes, they get to help animals, but they have to deal with the owner of the animal, who is a human being. And we're bad at medical compliance on our own. If you are told to take a pill every 4 hours, do you sort of take a pill, kind of when you think about it and you hope it's going to be okay? Or maybe you don't even fill the prescription. Well, people do that way worse. And that's with their own bodies. They're way worse with their dogs and with their pets. They mean to do what the vet said, but life gets in the way. And so here's this vet trying desperately to help an animal. And then the client, gets upset because the dog's not getting any better because they're not following instructions. And then they're mad at the veterinarian, or they come in and they tell the veterinarian how to treat the dog, or, I looked up online and it should be like da 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 da. Da." It's just so much of that you can stand all day. And then at least once or twice each week, veterinarians have a conversation with one or 2 clients where the discussion is about euthanasia. And in order to help the the client feel better, veterinarians use language like, well, you can put them out of the pain. They're in a lot of pain. This will help put them out of their pain. This will help them out of their misery. And then when the veterinarian backs themselves into their own corner that they can't see a way out of because they're not the type of people who easily ask for help because they have high expectations of themselves. To be either do something or be able to do something or be able to figure out how to do something. They don't want to manage people and they're having to manage a hospital staff. They don't really want to deal with people. They just want to help animals. And they end up in this place of pain. They those words that they've said over and over to their clients, this will help end their misery, are part of their psyche. I mean, that's the way the brain works. The more you say something, the more it feels true to you. And so when the pain is theirs, they know how to end it. And sadly, they have one of the highest incidents of suicide in the world as as a field, as a profession. It's bad, it's intense. So I wrote a book that actually is for pet owners to help them understand what their vets are going through so that we can be better clients. Because that's all we need to be. We just need to be good human beings when we go in there. And quite often, because we're worried about our pets, we're not good human beings. And we're taking it out on a person that's fragile to start with.
Sure.
And we just don't know it.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, I don't know if I could do it because I love healthy dogs. It's like to
I
see
know.
sick animals every day. That's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
What's your favorite animal besides a dog?
Wow. My favorite animal that I would consider living with, or my favorite animal besides a
I
dog?
don't know it. Yeah, probably.
I have
Probably.
Siberian Huskies. I have Siberian Huskies because I've been fascinated by wolves my whole life. I love wolves. And I knew that a wolf would make a terrible pet because it's a wild animal. It's not intended to be a pet. It's
Right.
not domesticated. Um, and so I started looking around at dog breeds. It's like, which one looks like a wolf? Oh, Siberians do, and so do Malamutes. And I chose the one that, in an emergency, I could pick up. In an emergency, I probably could not pick up an Alaskan Malamute,
Big
but I can
Malamute.
pick up a
Right. Yeah.
Siberian.
Yeah.
So wolf.
That's
I would
awesome.
answer that wolf. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we're fascinated by them too. It's just they're so bright and the things they do and the sawtooth wolves. Somebody gave me a coffee table book for Christmas once. It's huge. And I've seen videos about them and my dad found the book one time and it happened to be about the same pack of wolves. So I know all about Kamats and all those people in that tribe
Yep.
and
Is it the
very,
Brandenburg?
very it was the husband and wife, the guy, she had dark hair, he had white hair. I think his name was
Gotcha. Okay.
Jim.
Yep.
But there it's really fascinating, just awesome. And because they howl and so forth. But the one thing that in the book it talked about, a photographer came in and Jim said, I wouldn't leave that bag there on the ground. One of them will take it. He said, what if, it's hard plastic. And he said, sure enough, within 15 minutes, just to show that they could, one of the wolves took the $300 case.
Yep. Yep. It's just like, yeah, this is my territory. Y'all are camping in my territory. Have you ever
Yeah.
seen the
All right.
movie Never Cry Wolf?
I don't think I have.
Okay, homework assignment. It's epic in a movie theater, and you won't see it in a movie theater. Never Cry Wolf. Watch that
Okay.
movie. Get
Got
tissues
it.
because you will cry. Promise you.
Okay. All right. What's the best dog movie or your favorite dog movie of all time?
Well, this is a wolf movie. Never
Okay.
Cry Wolf is about wolves, and it is based on a true story. I guess, wow, favorite would be really hard to say, but I love 8 Below, even though it makes me cry.
Yeah.
The bitch that I
Yeah.
was telling you about earlier who was so in charge that all she had to do was just get stiff and everybody towed the line. The main bitch in that movie looks very much like Chapin. And so I saw that movie and I was like, "That's my Chapin on the screen." Just for that reason alone, I would have to say that's my favorite dog movie, even though it is very sad and based on a true story,
What's
but it
the
was Disneyized.
Yes. What's the most dogs you've owned at one time?
16, but I had a
You've owned
litter of
16 at
10.
once?
I had a litter of
Okay.
10. So, but my Beatty was an overachiever, and she had 10 puppies. And so I say 16 for the 8 weeks that they were there. I kept 1, which means I ended up with 7. So I found really great homes for the other puppies. Only 1 went to a show home. That was not a litter that I was really pleased with. Uh,
Yeah.
From an overall quality standpoint, overall personality standpoint, and really pretty faces, yes. But overall structural quality and movement, I was not pleased with that litter, and there were way too many of them.
Wow.
If I had the energy
10.
to have an enemy, I would not wish 10 puppies at the same time on my worst enemy. That's a lot of work.
Wow. Yeah, I bet. What's your favorite book of all time? Animal or anything?
Anthem by Ayn Rand, probably.
Well, I want to tell everybody at home your website, and you can have them explain real quick. Tell us what's Wagalicious.
Wagalicious is, when you come home and maybe you were gone 5 hours or maybe you were gone 5 minutes and your dog just goes nuts to see you, that's Wagalicious. And so I want humans to remember that we can be that too. We're allowed to be that happy, and we're allowed to create that much happiness in our lives. And so I'm on a mission to create Wagalicious, to remind people that they can just pull out their Wagalicious self and let it play anytime they want.
That's great. It's sandyjweaver.com. Sandy with a Y, jweaver.com, correct? That's your website.
Yes, thank you.
So, well, some of the notes I wrote down, talking about a high protein, good fat diet for dogs, especially Huskies, the green mussel, the sprinkle on the food. I'm going to check that out. The Arm& and Hammer
I'll get the
dental
name for
cleaning
you.
for dogs.
Yep, yep.
Yep. And dogs don't care what size of the treat. They just care that they're getting a treat. I think that's great.
That is really
And how
true too.
dogs, yeah. I remember there's little tiny liver ones. They sure smell like liver, but they're perfect. And the cues that we give them, and dogs' existence is to please us. I think that's so good. And I'm going to check out Never Cry Wolf movie.
Cool. Let me know what you think of it.
Well, and Sandy, I appreciate your time. And I'm sure everybody's going to, take a lot from this, just like I have.
Rob, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Good. Appreciate your time and your your husky insights over the years and the questions we've had. So, um, who knew back in all those years when you're president of the Georgia Husky Club? So we appreciate it. So till next time, I encourage you guys to watch this episode more than once. If you like dogs, send it to a friend, as well as some of these other episodes that we've published. And if you benefit in any way, send it to a friend that might also like them. So till next time, make the most of your time, and always hang tough. That was great.